Chessman Dan, playing chess every day until Hazel becomes a chess world champion. Today's recap: played a lot of games. Won a lot, lost a lot. We decided to cover this game. This was one of my favorite games I played today. The last game I did play was a win. However, this is one of the first games I played and I want to cover this. I'll probably be posting more of my other games on YouTube Shorts, so look out for that if you like. So, starting off as white, typically with white, you know what I'm going to play. And you know that's right, the London system. So here, move my pawn to d4, my pawn to d5, a book opening move. Here, kick out my bishop to f4. My opponent does pawn e6, not the best move against the London, but it's not bad. Here, my pawn to e3 just begins to build my pyramid structure as well as defend both my pawn and my bishop. Here, my opponent does knight to c6. If anyone watched previous games of me playing in London, knight to c6, not the best move against London. It's not terrible, but it can be easily punished. Here, I move my pawn to c4 because now, seeing an early knight to c6 move, I will be changing my game plan to do that more of a Queen's Gambit style approach. This is not me. This is based on the London course that Gotham Chess has. Here, my opponent takes, so I naturally respond with bishop to c4. Here, now my opponent has both pawns out. So you see, he moved his knight to f6. So here, I have to take a small moment because now I have fighting for the center. You have the two knights versus the two bishops. Here, I move my knight to c3, supporting the center. So when it comes to the London system, and not just the London system, a lot of openings, you really want to fight for the center. e4, e5, specifically for London, that's what I'm doing. If you don't know what you're doing and you're just playing just to play, fight for the center. If you lose the center, it's a good chance you're gonna get your stuff pushed in. Here is my opponent makes the first weird move. He moves his knight to h5. In the past, I've ignored it and essentially maybe try to kick him out right here, and he takes the bishop. So from my past experience, I know that the whole point of moving his knight to h5 is to try to kick my bishop. Now, for a second, while I was playing this, I was seeing where I could move my bishop to make the best sense. However, if you haven't noticed already, Malini Weenie, look what's in line, my queen. And guess what? The knight is not being defended. So after taking a quick analysis, I decided to take with the queen. Now, this is really important because in the past, I've lost games because I moved too fast. And a thing I've seen when they teach children when they play chess is they either make them sit on their hands or kind of force them to hold their hands in a manner to prevent them from making premature moves. So luckily I was able to see this. My opponent decides, hey, I couldn't take that bishop, so I'm gonna take your other bishop. And guess how I respond? Well, upon further analysis, I realized, oh wow, that's another free knight. So I take. So at the beginning of the game, I'm up 2 knights. And in terms of the evaluation board, it says I have a plus 8.5 material advantage. And now I'm attacking the C7 pawn. This is really important because whenever, we're gonna go back for a second, whenever we see an early knight to f6 move, the reason why you want to I change it up to a Queen's Gambit style is, attacking the c7 pawn. This is a very weak pawn, and if I'm able to build my attack and push towards the queen side, a good chance I'm going to get there. So, regardless, way too fast. So here, you see the arrows pointing both at that c7. Here, my opponent pushes pawn f6. Here, I castle. While I still have a good advantage, a better move probably would have been to go here. Just maybe. If it's a free pawn, my opponent probably wouldn't have taken because, free queen. So Although I understand that the c7 pawn is really weak, I still need to practice chess. Gotta take advantage of that free pawn. So here at castle, not the worst move. Here, my opponent moves pawn to b6, trying to kick out my knight, or my queen, excuse me, and that's what I do. However, why not move my queen and give him a check? Here, the best move my opponent played was blocking with the bishop. I never retreat my queen to safety. So just in 12 moves, I'm up 2 knights, and I have control of the center. Here, my opponent seems like my opponent is trying to get his bearings, so starts throwing pawns at me. Here, I take that free c7 pawn. My opponent naturally threatens my bishop, so I move it back. Here, my opponent takes. I did see that. If I would have moved, it would have taken my free bishop, but at this point, I was fine with it. Here, I move my pawn to b4, threatening to kick back the bishop, or the rook. Here, I reinforce this pawn. I'm now planning to go center and attack. My opponent responds with bishop to b5. In the past, I've gotten with these type of moves, in the sense that I may be winning and I may like my position, but I don't stop to think, what does black want? And clearly he wants this rook. So what do? The easiest and best move I could do? Move it out the way. I could have taken with the knight. However, I would have left my queen hanging. So you see, you don't blindly take when you see stuff. So I had to think for a second, and that was the best move. Here, my opponent just kicks his pawn to h5. And here's what I do with check. I'm up +9 advantage of material. Here, my opponent moves his king. Now I could take that free bishop. So the whole idea of me kicking out my queen to do a check was to unpin my knight. Checking also prevents my opponent from moving any other piece aside from his king or a piece his block. And from there, I could take that bishop. I'm up +15 points of material. Here's where I get a little spicy. My opponent moves pawn f5. What's that idea? It's to block my escape route. Here, I offer a rook exchange, and my opponent blocks my queen. While I'm up +20 advantage of material in the game, there's 2 things to take in consideration. 1, while you're playing a live game, you don't know the evaluation bar. 2, Malini Weenie, if you want to know what these numbers mean, the way the evaluations board work is how many pawns, pawns in quotation, advantage you have, right? So if I have +19, almost +20 advantage, that means my advantage is so good is the equivalent of me having 20 more pawns than him on the board. So here I have to think. I was like, okay, I can't go anywhere. I could have gone here. That probably would have been the messy move. But I was stressing out. I was like, I can't take because he would take. I can't go here because I'll lose my queen and continue to activate his queen. I can't go here because here I lose my queen. So during this is live, I'm stressing out. What's the best thing I could do? The computer move. This is the best computer move, right? Because now my opponent could have done a whole bunch of plethora of things, right? I would have gotten out. Regardless, no, I would have lost it. Regardless, I didn't want to lose my queen, so I was like, should I take the rook and be accepting of me losing the queen? No. So what do I do? What's the most invasive thing I could do? Forcing move I could do? Oh, that's right. Check my opponent. Here I sacrifice my rook. Naturally, my opponent takes. Now I'm faced with a dilemma. What do I do? I check again. My opponent is forced to move. What do I do now? Well, I check again, of course. And I move my bishop out. My opponent can't take because it's defended by the... Excuse me. The bishop's defended by my knight. I would have loved if my opponent did that, because then I would have taken the queen. So my opponent moves his knight. I do another check. My opponent moves his king. I do another check. Now, it would have been not wise for my opponent to take, because I would have taken, which would have been discovered a check. So you see, instead of dealing with the queen situation, I'm in such a good advantage because I'm in my enemy's territory. I'm just chasing the king with checks. Boom, another check. I could have taken the queen. However, the whole idea, my whole mental calculation is if I take that knight, my opponent's gonna move the queen, which allows me an escape route. I check the king. My opponent moves. I check the king again. I'm leaving that queen. I was like, not yet. I'm still coming after you. You think you're gonna trap my queen and get away with it? Here, I take the queen. So now I'm up mate in 4. Here my opponent moves his king down to what is that? B5. I have mate in 2. I'm still not the best at I'm getting better at checkmating. However, I don't often see the fastest checkmate. So the game kind of goes on for a little bit. Here, I decide to take the bishop. He moves his rook. I check with the pawn. My opponent moves. I move my bishop out here to A3 to prevent my opponent from going to the dark square. Here it goes. I check. Moves the king. Check again. He takes. I don't care. At this point, I want him to suffer. My opponent takes the bishop. You could take the bishop. But look what's gonna happen. My opponent threatens my queen. But don't worry. I check him again. Moves the king. I check again. Moves the king to B5. I take. Moves his pawn out. I check again. King to A6. Now what's the final blow? Rook to A1 checkmate. I was very proud of this game because I was able to save my queen and by checks. While you may not always be able to save some pieces or your position by chasing checks, moral of the story is if you have an opportunity to check, and if it's a very forcing move. However, don't blindly check because that screws up.